Why does everybody keep on hiring me? All of my work is shit.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy, remember? So you don't have to. Well, seeing how we just started Shyamalan month, it only figures to ask the question, how do good directors go bad? Yes, it's easy to point at Shyamalan as a prime example of this, seeing how one of his earliest films, The Sixth Sense, was a huge hit, and his movies got increasingly worse after. But what about the others? You know who I'm talking about. Directors that even today are praised as maverick game changers, but many people feel have lost their touch in later years. Is it just an inevitable part of getting older? Are all artists doomed to fail if they stay around too long? It's a question a lot of people who love movies have been asking for years. Well, the best way to look at this is probably in groups. So let's start off by looking at the group you most likely want to hear the most about, the ones that went completely downhill. The Shyamalans, the George Lucases, the Wachowskis, the directors we thought were going to change the world, but then somewhere down the line went completely south. What do all these directors have in common? Well, a couple of things surprisingly. All of them we declared were gonna keep making great things. If that one thing they made was amazing, surely all the other ones afterwards will be just as amazing, if not greater. Writer Ralph Ellison wrote a novel called Invisible Man in 1952. It was so good and so praised by everyone around him that he never wrote another novel again. He became a perfectionist, and the pressure of following up such a masterwork intimidated him so much that he never released another one. That's just one example of how certain attention can get in the way of good progress. When George Lucas made Star Wars, people were blown away, saying it would change film forever, and in some respects, it did. Every big blockbuster is trying to do what Star Wars did, whether in style or the amount of people they're trying to attract. But if you look at a lot of the deleted scenes and original scripts, you'll find that a lot of it was very similar to the now despised prequels. There were a lot of political talks, there were a lot of pointless scenes. And admit it, some of the dialogue has an eerie corniness of what was to come years later.
I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board.
Couldn't you just hear that alongside?
Either choice presents great danger to us all.
But one of the things was he had people giving him advice, telling him what would probably work and what wouldn't. He wasn't a star yet, and a lot was riding on this film, so why not listen? This is possibly what helped make this movie such a big game changer. But even early on, the signs were there. After the first run of the film, Lucas immediately went back and put episode 4 in the opening scroll. So as much as people like to say he's changing things and altering the films only recently, they were done when they were first shown. And remember that Empire and Jedi were not directed by him, and the scenes that people have the most problems with are usually the ones he pushed the heaviest. So, years of not directing a film, not really doing that much storytelling, and nobody talking against him but instead praising him as a genius, can we really be shocked we got what we got? History repeated itself almost identically with the Matrix movies. The Wachowskis started off with a pretty damn good first movie, but then hit mega blockbuster status when they directed The Matrix. Much like Star Wars, it had groundbreaking effects, an interesting style, and an environment that allowed for a lot of interpretation. So, knowing Hollywood, what happened? The exact same thing except faster. They wanted 2 more Matrix movies, bigger and better than the original, telling the Wachowskis to do whatever they wanted. But, as we learned with Lucas, doing whatever you want isn't always the answer. The Wachowskis also had to take advice on their first movie, and as I pointed out in my review, it's not like the writing was exactly perfect.
You're my savior, man. My own personal Jesus Christ.
Subtle! But now imagine that writing with nobody advising them and instead a fan base praising that their words are incredible, I get lost in how deep they are. Like Lucas, the following movies reflected that, trying to make the world seem more vast and meaningful while forgetting to focus on basic essentials like enjoyable characters or a coherent story. But think about it, if you were a writer or director in that situation, wouldn't that possibly happen to you too? Even directors that are still popular, like Christopher Nolan. It's totally understandable how people can still like his work, but even his strongest fans are starting to notice a little repeat. A lot of philosophical talk resulting in a very long running time leading to a super complicated story. Now these are criticisms that have always been in his movies, all of them. Memento, Batman Begins, Inception, these films had very similar patterns. Some claim it's the same thing over and over and they're sick of it. Others claim that it doesn't matter because he just does it so well. But everybody agrees they've seen it a lot. The point is, sometimes it's not giving us something different that's a noticeable problem, sometimes it's just giving us the exact same thing. But not all directors are given almost complete creative freedom. Look at horror directors like John Carpenter and the late Wes Craven. Both of them started off with creative ideas and promising careers, but somewhere they started to feel a little stale. After Halloween, John Carpenter directed almost a movie a year, and most of them were awesome and badass. But then they started to go on repeat. We were seeing stuff we felt we saw before, except not as innovative. He basically left directing and instead soaks up the praise of his past projects, which, given his age and how much cool stuff he's done, that seems fitting enough. But as much as people praise Wes Craven after his passing, they usually forget he's kind of been on the decline for years as well. Sure, we know him for his early work, but aside from the Scream movies, which even mocked itself and how lame it was getting, he hasn't made that many films that people remember. One of the reasons may be Wes Craven didn't want to do horror. Ever notice a few romantic films snuck their way in there? That's because he always wanted to do love stories. But after the success of his scary films, he was labeled as the master of horror for a while, and that seemed to be what kept him popular, as well as continued to get him work. He even made fun of this in Scream 3 when the director admits he doesn't even like doing horror films and instead wanted to do romances. He managed to get one or two in there, but can we really be shocked that not all his scary movies are masterpieces when it wasn't even his original intent? There is also a group of directors that don't make that many good movies because they don't make that many movies in general. The legendary Francis Ford Coppola clearly just kinda directs whatever he wants. We all know him for the Godfather films and Apocalypse Now, but did you know he also directed Captain EO, or Fairy Tale Theater, or Peggy Sue Got Married, or Jack? Whether you like these or not, you have to admit these are rather strange choices for a guy like this. But part of that is understandable because he's been busy with other stuff. From producing, to theater work, to freaking winemaking, he seems like a guy who likes to do a lot, just not all in one field. But when you do that, the chances of making constantly good films are usually lessened as you're simply not making them as much. But then again, if he's happy, he's happy. Who says he has to keep making films to appease us? William Friedkin went from directing something every year to every 3 years, and half the time it wasn't even movies, it was TV. And even then, the choices were usually very odd and not winning over that many critics or audiences. But to his credit, it was those bizarre choices that gave us masterpieces like The Exorcist or Live and Die in LA and so forth. Sometimes that weird style can peak at just the right time, but then not really be ready for a different generation. Bug, for example, a film about a couple going crazy from paranoia, would have worked great in the 70s. But today, most audiences just find it annoying and confusing. Neither opinion is right or wrong, but timing is everything when it comes to making popular art. Which comes to the next group of directors you see quite often, the hit-or-miss directors. These are the directors who used to make nothing but hits, but suddenly make misses that are so bad you can't possibly believe they were from the same person. Tim Burton used to be a unique visionary with Ed Wood, Batman, and Edward Scissorhands. But then films like Mars Attacks, Dark Shadows, and Planet of the Apes are part of his lineup too. Ang Lee was well known for losing his path in a big way once in a while. Gus Van Sant seems to go back and forth between making annoyingly unfocused art house experiments and reasonably good films at the same time. Robert Zemeckis walks the tightrope both literally and figuratively with giants like Back to the Future and Roger Rabbit, but then backfires with What Lies Beneath and Contact. Robert Rodriguez is amazing in how back and forth he goes with the likability or hateability of his movies. Most recently, we've seen Ridley Scott practically lampoon his own style with Robin Hood and Prometheus, but within one film win back everybody with The Martian. What do all these directors have in common? Well, they all have pretty extreme styles. As much as we love extremes, people forget they can just as easily backfire as hit bullseyes. The style of these filmmakers, though, seems to be just relatable enough that even when they do make a big miss, we're still willing to jump right back on because they can still make a connection with us that seems timeless. It's hard to say what the secret is that keeps us coming back to them, but all of them have it in their own unique way. Which brings us to the most impressive group of directors who have gone bad, the ones who come back. Remember when the Coen brothers made a long line of bad films? They returned to pleasing us and as strange as ever. Remember when Woody Allen suffered an embarrassing personal life as well as creative life? He retaliated with intelligent comedies that even had a hint of magic to them. Barry Sonnenfeld was making bomb after bomb, but then he made Men in Black 3, the surprising sequel that nobody knew they wanted. Master filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese, both giants of cinema in their own unique way, veered into a long stream of disappointment, but found themselves making great work again in completely new ways. And yes, even Shyamalan has made a little bit of a comeback with The Visit, getting both critical and box office praise. These are directors that started off strong, veered into dark paths, and then seemingly came out creatively rejuvenated. Did they just need time to heal? Did they need to try something new to discover the old ways, or were the old ways getting in the way of something new? Honestly, we can't know for sure, and it's all subjective. Really, this is just speculation. We can't know for sure what's going on behind the scenes any more than we can know what's going on inside somebody's head. Everything listed here are possibilities that seem likely, but aren't certain. I guess what I'm trying to get to is that there's no perfect way to make continually great art. Everyone's gonna have their ups and downs. Some stay down, others come back up, and many hover somewhere in between. With filmmaking requiring as many people as it does, there's no one method that's proven to always work. Sometimes the studio gets in the way, other times they save a movie. Sometimes an artist should be allowed to do whatever they want, other times they need more restraint. You can never know for sure, but honestly, that's what makes art so exciting. There is no one answer. It can come from any style, anywhere, from anyone. Will Shyamalan ride the success of The Visit into better work? Or was it just a lucky shot in the dark? Nobody knows, and thank God for it. The unpredictability of what a product is going to do is part of what makes it so thrilling. A well-known director can make crap, and a well-known bad director can make gold. So just remember, when it comes to art, there is no certainty. And you don't have all the answers. None of us do. It's just interesting to speculate and guess to help figure out what can make something better. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you always remember it's just speculation. So keep experimenting, keep discovering, and keep an open mind for where the next Citizen Kane, or The Room, could possibly come from. I'm the Nostalgia Critic, and don't worry, I won't be this fair the rest of the month. Hey, sorry for the handheld here. I left my tripod at the office, but that's not what you want to hear about. You want to hear what the charity shout-out is this week, and you can thank Rob Paulson for his introduction to this charity. Without him, I wouldn't have found out about this. This is Boot Campaign. Boot Campaign is trying to raise awareness for veterans. People that have gone to war, people that have served us, people who have put their lives in danger, people who have sacrificed so much. The campaign helps raise awareness of their sacrifice through the image of boots. Their big question is, why do you wear your boots? People go online and share their stories about why the soldiers who have served us mean so much to us. And as you imagine, it isn't just buying boots and showing support, it's going online and donating. And one of the great things is that they show where the money is going. This is an organization that's gotten all sorts of celebrities on board. Like I said, Rob Paulson, but also the Sons of Anarchy cast. This is a great idea to raise awareness for people who definitely deserve it. The bravery and the dedication that these soldiers put forward is mind-blowing. And you can show your support by either going to the website or even going to their YouTube page and seeing all the various stories. You can volunteer, you can donate, or you can just wear your boots, which are also available to purchase on the website, and help raise awareness and show support. Get online and tell everybody why you wear your boots.